Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into some incredibly profound insights from Paula Williams on the difficult, yet absolutely beautiful path of generational healing. Look, if you've ever felt like you're dragging around this invisible, unbearable weight, or if you've been doing the hard, messy work of personal growth and just find yourself completely drained, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to look at healing not as some magical overnight fix, because, let's be real, that doesn't exist, but as a deeply human, step-by-step process of unburdening yourself. We're going to walk through this together, really acting as a guide for anyone who is finally ready to look at their family story and say, you know what, it stops with me.
So let's dive right into the deep end here. Are you exhausted by your own healing? Because if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're tired of processing your emotions, tired of reflecting, and honestly just tired of growing, I want you to hear this right now. You are not failing. You're just human. Often when we start working on ourselves, we kind of expect to feel instantly lighter and happier. But the reality, healing is unbelievably hard work. The patterns you're trying to break haven't just existed for a few weeks. They've likely been there your entire life, maybe for generations before you even got here. Your nervous system literally hardwired them into your brain just to survive. So if you're exhausted, let's just totally normalize and validate that right now. That exhaustion is 100% a normal part of the process.
To really wrap our heads around why this is so draining, Paula Williams uses this perfect metaphor. Imagine you've been lugging around this absolutely massive, heavy suitcase your entire life. It's packed full of generations of survival tactics, unhealed trauma, unspoken family rules, the whole shebang. Because you've carried it for so long, your body has completely adapted to the weight. I mean, you've literally developed emotional muscles around it. You know exactly how to walk with it, your relationships, your coping mechanisms, your very identity. They've all organized themselves completely around this familiar heavy weight. You built your entire routine around holding on to it, because honestly, for a very long time, carrying it is what kept you safe.
And this brilliantly illustrates the emotional shock of healing. Imagine someone finally comes along and says, hey, you can put that heavy suitcase down now. So you drop it. What happens? You'd think it would just be pure relief, right? Well, according to Williams, you would likely feel relief, sure, but you might also feel strange, unsteady, uncertain. Honestly, you might feel highly vulnerable. Dropping that familiar pain leaves you feeling incredibly exposed. The weight was undeniably painful, but it was known, it was familiar. Healing often feels exactly the same way. It asks you to challenge what feels familiar. And stepping into the unknown, even a much healthier unknown, is downright terrifying to our nervous systems. Which brings us to a really important realization. There are actually two very different kinds of fatigue you might be experiencing right now. First, there's the exhaustion of repeating the cycle. I mean, before you even start healing, you're already exhausted, right? You're exhausted by anxiety, exhausted by people-pleasing, hiding your true feelings, avoiding conflict. But contrast that with the exhaustion of healing. This is the exhaustion of learning new ways to exist, of setting boundaries, of having those incredibly difficult conversations, and of finally feeling emotions you've kept buried for years. Changing these deep-seated habits takes a massive amount of cognitive and emotional energy. So yeah, at times, both of these states can feel equally draining to your spirit.
So, what does this all mean? The absolute crucial point here is understanding the difference in where these two paths actually lead. While both forms of exhaustion will wipe you out, repeating the cycle leaves you trapped exactly where you started. It's this heavy, suffocating exhaustion because it leads nowhere. It just loops on itself indefinitely. But the exhaustion of healing, that moves you toward actual freedom. One path has endless, painful repetition at the end of it. The other path, even though it's fiercely challenging, it has hope. It holds a genuine promise of a completely different future for you and for the generations that come after you.
And man, that brings us to the healing fatigue that nobody really talks about. There will absolutely be days when you look at all the hard work you've done and wonder, is any progress happening at all? You might feel like you've been setting boundaries and processing trauma for months, yet you still feel totally stuck. When that specific fatigue sets in, take a deep breath and remind yourself of this. The roots are growing before the tree appears. Healing is never, ever a straight line. You're going to have massive breakthroughs and you're going to have heartbreaking setbacks. But please remember that profound, foundational growth is happening deep beneath the surface, long before it's visible to you or to anyone else. To keep those roots growing, we really have to completely redefine what bravery looks like. We so often imagine courage as this fearless confidence, right? Like this dramatic certainty where you know exactly what you're doing. But in the trenches of trauma and generational healing, that is rarely the case. True courage is taking the very next step while you are deeply, deeply afraid.
Courage is setting a desperately needed boundary even while your voice is literally shaking and your heart is pounding out of your chest. It's asking for help when you've spent decades believing you had to survive on your own. It's consciously choosing growth when slipping back into old, familiar habits would feel so much easier. Courage isn't glamorous, it is just deeply, beautifully human. So, how does this actually look on a random Tuesday? Because a really important takeaway here is that healing isn't built on grand, movie moment breakthroughs. It's built on small actions, repeated consistently. It means learning to just pause for one single second before you react, setting one healthy boundary today, practicing a tiny moment of self-compassion when you mess up, because you will mess up, seeking therapy, or just having one honest conversation. No single action is a game changer overnight, but together, repeated again and again, these simple acts of bravery build lasting emotional resilience. This is exactly how you slowly, item by item, begin unpacking that heavy family suitcase. As you take those small steps, I really want you to let this next concept sink in. So many people start a healing journey thinking they need to become a better or perfected version of themselves. They kind of treat themselves like a house renovation project. But actually, scratch that. Healing is a journey of authentic self-discovery. You do not need to become someone else. You just need to become more fully yourself. The goal here is authenticity, not perfection. The real work is simply about stripping away the shame, the old stories, and those outdated survival rules that never even belonged to you in the first place. As you peel back those layers, the real you, the person who was waiting beneath the fear all along, finally gets to emerge. But, of course, coming out from beneath that fear is tough. There will absolutely be moments when you just want to throw in the towel, moments when that familiar suffering feels way more comfortable than this unfamiliar, unsteady growth. When that happens, and for sure it will happen, gently walk yourself through these grounding steps. First, just honestly acknowledge it. Yep, the old patterns feel easier right now. Don't fight it. Second, recognize that this extreme discomfort means healing is challenging you. It doesn't mean healing isn't working. And third, deliberately remember why you started this whole journey. You didn't start because it sounded easy, right? You started because the pain of staying the same finally outweighed your fear of changing. And when you really need to remember your why, I highly recommend adopting this mantra. It's so simple. I love myself and my family enough to stop this cycle. Whenever the weight of that invisible suitcase feels too heavy, whenever the sheer exhaustion of healing brings you to your knees, you've got to return to this incredibly powerful truth. Say it out loud in the car, write it on a sticky note, return to it as often as you need to. You are doing this hard work so that the pain doesn't just automatically get passed down to the next generation. You are becoming the cycle breaker. I want you to remember that absolutely none of this is pointless. Healing isn't easy. If it were, generations of pain would just vanish overnight. But difficult does not mean impossible, and exhausting certainly doesn't mean pointless. Think about it. Every single boundary you enforce, every honest conversation you brave, every tear you finally let yourself cry, every small breakthrough, and every courageous step where your voice shakes, all of these moments are actively helping to unpack a suitcase that your family may have been carrying blindly for generations. That courageous work matters. It matters deeply, probably more than you could ever possibly know right now. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a lingering question to just kind of chew on as you go about your day. What old survival strategy are you most ready to release? Is it the constant people-pleasing? Is it hiding your true feelings just to keep the peace? Or maybe shutting down the second you feel overwhelmed? Honor the brave, authentic self you are slowly uncovering by just acknowledging what no longer serves you. Take your time with this. The suitcase is heavy, but you don't have to carry it all anymore. Thank you so much for joining me, and I truly hope this look at generational healing has given you a sense of clarity, a lot of self-compassion, and most importantly, hope for the path ahead.